When I was president, in my second term, and we had been dealing with, we had seen like the H1N1 virus and the Ebola virus, and I talked to scientists, and they said, look, with globalization, with travel, growing populations, at some point we're going to have a big pandemic. We got all the agencies together. We said, if a pandemic happens, here's how we are going to deal with the public health system. Here's how we're going to deal with the schools. Here's how we're going to accelerate vaccinations. And here's how we're going to explain it to people so people can understand it. We've practiced it. So when Donald Trump comes in, just like I handed him a good economy, I handed him this playbook, and he just, I guess, dropped it in the trash bin. 3 years later, a pandemic hits. Now, I want to be really fair and accurate on this, all right? No matter who was president, COVID was going to be a crisis. No matter who was president, people were going to die and get sick, and there were going to be businesses that shut down for a while and travel restrictions, because this is something that hadn't happened for 100 years. But if you look at right across the border in Canada, their per capita death rate from COVID was 60% lower than here in the US. Now I want you to do the math. Over 1 million people died during the pandemic here in the US. 60% is 600,000 people. That's people's grandparents, people's parents, co-workers, friends. Some of those folks might be alive if we have a competent president who actually is paying attention and doing their homework and actually trying to make things better, as opposed to telling people, go ahead and inject bleach. That might work. So do not tell me that your vote doesn't matter. If somebody in your family, in your neighborhood, your coworker tells you it don't make a difference, then you've got to tell them, no, having somebody who's competent and sees you and cares about you and thinks about you, it makes a difference. It'll make a difference to them. They may not always know it. And if that's not enough, then you also have to remind them that any election is about more than just policies. It's about values. And it is about character. Now, some of you know, growing up, I didn't have a father in the house. But I was lucky enough to have people around me, a stepfather, my grandparents, teachers, coaches, and most of all, my mom, who tried to teach me the difference between right and wrong, and who showed me what it meant to be honest and be responsible and to work hard and be accountable and treat other people the way I'd want to be treated. And I won't lie to you, when I was a teenager, through young adulthood, I did not always live up to those values the way I should have, and I made mistakes, and I tried to learn from them. And I internalized those values, and I tried to live up to them, and I tried to pass them on to my kids. And I suspect most of you grew up the same way. And one of the most disturbing things about this election, about Trump's rise in politics, is how so many of us, even good people that we know, seem somehow suddenly to be willing to set aside values that we were taught. I mean, the day after the 2020 election, thousands of mail ballots were being counted right here in this convention center. And because Donald Trump was willing to spread lies about voter fraud in Michigan, protesters came down. banged on the windows, shouting, "Let us in, stop the count." Poll workers inside being intimidated. Earlier this month, we learned that someone on Trump's campaign told a lawyer to, quote, to find a reason to try to throw out votes, quote, even if it's BS. Hey, do not boo. Later, hold on. Later, the same staffer said, quote, make people riot. All because Donald Trump couldn't accept losing. Right now, we just saw one of the deadliest couple of hurricanes down in North Carolina, Florida. And while Biden and Harris are comforting families and trying to get aid, and FEMA workers trying to go out there, Donald Trump is making stuff up, saying that, oh, they're diverting emergency funds to immigrants, and that they're not giving it to Republican counties. And so suddenly FEMA workers, emergency workers trying to help desperate people, are worried about their own safety, and people aren't applying for aid. When did that become okay? No, look, I know you know the answer, but I want us to think about this. No matter where you stand on the issues, why would you go along with that? If your coworkers acted like that, they wouldn't be your coworkers for very long. If you had a family member who acted like that, you might still love them, but you wouldn't put them in charge of anything. You wouldn't trust them. And yet, when Donald Trump lies or cheats or shows utter disregard for our Constitution, when he calls service members who died in battle losers, when he calls fellow citizens vermin, we make excuses for it. We act like it's okay. Or at least those who say they're supporting him, they say, well, you know, he's just joking, or it's not that serious, or what, you know, as long as we win, that's how politics is played. No, it's not. And I've noticed this especially, you know, a while back I said this, and some folks were all, you know, asking me questions about it, where I said, look, especially some men seem to think Donald Trump's behavior is somehow a sign of strength. You know, no. Look, I want to be clear. I want everybody to actually look at the record. I want them to educate themselves on the issues. I have friends who have voted Republican in the past. I do not think one party has the monopoly on all wisdom. But when I hear folks saying, yeah, I'm thinking about voting for him just because, and I say, what? And they say, well, I don't know, he seems strong. He seems tough. I saw him at the UFC fight. I am here to tell you that is not what real strength is. It never has been. Real strength is about working hard. All those guys showing up every day on the factory floor, busting their butts to support their families, that's real strength. Real strength is taking responsibility for your actions and upholding your duty. Real strength is about telling the truth, even when it's inconvenient. Real strength is about helping people who need it and standing up for those who can't always stand up for themselves. That's what we should want in our daughters and our sons. And that is what I want to see in the President of the United States of America. And the good news is that you have candidates to vote for in this election who demonstrate that kind of character, who know what real strength looks like, who will set a good example and do the right thing. and leave this country better than they found it. And that is the choice in this election. It is not just policies that are on the ballot. It is about who we are. It is about what we stand for. So whether this election is making you feel excited or scared or hopeful or frustrated or anything in between, do not sit back and hope for the best. I know I'm the hope guy, but don't just hope. Get off your couch and vote. Put down your vote. Put down your phone and vote. Vote for Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States.